Welcome, everybody. I'm WPRI reporter Eli Sherman, and I'm joined today by Pawtucket Mayor Don Grebien, who is here to talk about the city's budget. Thanks for joining me today, Mayor.
Eli, thanks for having me. And, budget's probably boring to everybody, but it's an important way, especially under the COVID pandemic. So thank you for having me.
Mayor, the city's passed a $264 million budget for the upcoming fiscal year beginning July 1st. That's compared to about $258 million for the current fiscal year, which is an increase of about 2.2%. What are some key highlights in this upcoming budget that you think people should be aware of?
So a couple of things is, it's all about the state aid. So the reason that we're $2 million up is that's $2 million in projected state aid in the governor's proposed budget. So for us, we still don't know if that's the real number or not, right? So the General Assembly is going to be meeting and finalize. Having said that, the council, myself, felt very strongly that we could not do a tax increase. So we left it as is. They fluctuate a little bit based on your total value, and you understand that, Eli, and people get. But for the average person, the tax rate is staying at $20.89 for residential and $34.47 for commercial. So there'll be no impact to them, no change in their bill, unless there was an adjustment on their evaluation, which very few had because we didn't have an assessment this year. Having said that, though, we focused in on schools, we focused in on public safety, which is important, but there were a lot of unknowns, with COVID. In this budget, we've got about a $2 million that we know of a built-in deficit, if you will, of what we need to manage to. So that's going to be through changes, whether we do furlough days, we look at layoffs in next year, we look at bringing new revenue in. And so we know there's about a $2 million manageable number, but we did not want, the council and the administration and the school committee didn't want to raise taxes, so everybody level funded. So from that perspective, everybody stays the same. I think one important thing to talk about is that people are going, these are all different times for us, and budgetary, and people are laid off and unemployed. We are working with individuals to make sure that nobody's going to get thrown out of their house. There are going to be those exceptions to the rule. So we're willing to work through those. But the big ones really is we had contract obligations that increased. We were obligated to do that. We made some cuts in our spending. And again, it's a work in progress. Eli, sorry, Ian, listen to me.
Yeah, that's great. So just to be clear, then there's about a $2 million deficit that you're dealing with going into the next fiscal year. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. Yeah, we're going to manage to that, and that's presuming that the General Assembly accepts the governor's budget. So there's
right.
Pilot money that wasn't there. There's distressed community. It could get better. It could get worse.
Yeah, and I want to get into state aid here in a bit. But you mentioned it yourself that you're considering some ways to bring down expenses. As it stands right now, have you defunded, furloughed, or laid off any employees to make the expenditure side work?
No, we're trying not to do that. That would be a last resort. Furloughs is probably the least drastic. So we have our budgets good to the end of June. I made everybody a commitment. We've been carrying everybody through COVID. Everybody's been collecting their salaries. We didn't want to add to the layoff. People have been working from home, as we were talking about, working online. So I don't want to add to that. I don't want people to get concerned. I'm truly going to manage not to do that. So we're going to be through vacancies, through attrition model. We're going to do those things. We have some funds that we're going to look at. So we're not there at the panic mode yet. We just know that number is there. We're waiting. We meet financially from a weekly we have on our cash flow to see where we are because of COVID, because payments weren't coming in, collections were down, not drastically down, all that. In fact, so at the end of the day, our last resort is going to be doing layoffs, and we're really waiting until the General Assembly finalizes their number, so we know what that number is. We're managing to it. So if they make some changes to us that help us, and from the governor's proposed, we'll be that much better off. So rather than get everybody nervous. So to answer your question, Eli, absolutely not. We have not done any layoffs. We're not planning to do any on July 1. We're going to be taking as soon as the budget's passed and doing some assessment through that.
So you talk about the state's budget, the General Assembly and the governor's office right now are projecting significant deficits because revenue is so far off thanks to the public health crisis. So I'm just curious, as they start to think about how they're going to balance their budget, and there's still such uncertainty with what Congress might do with it, a new stimulus package. Are Are you concerned that, you know, aid to municipal governments may be one of the things on the chopping block?
Absolutely. One thing I have to say, Eli, though, and I forgot, is there's the talk of the stimulus dollars that the Congress passed their HEROES bill. Now, I'm sure that's going to be, you know, we're all watching it nationally. Sure, there's going to be multiple changes, so we haven't banked on that. But that could be a positive impact to us, depending what comes out of the Senate. So all those things will be factored in. Having said that, though, we are concerned specifically, and I know we on municipal calls daily now because of COVID. We're concerned about the distressed communities. The cut the governor proposed in her budget, it was an amount of about $600,000 to Pawtucket, maybe just under $700,000 in the formula change. If you remember, in her budget pre-COVID, and it's changed, we're all under different conditions now. You know, the economy was doing better, so she made that calculation. So our position as a distressed community is, listen, you should fully fund it. You know, we need more money, but fully fund, take away the governor's proposal and put it back to level funding in worst case. The other area from the state is pilot. So, you know, we've been dealing with Memorial. As you know, the state had closed, you know, authorized the closure of Memorial. We have pilot dollars for our nonprofit, biggest chunk being that facility. Well, that facility is still a nonprofit. I haven't been able to tax it. So technically, it's the same, nothing's changed, but they chose to take that out of it. Their argument would be that it's not a hospital. And it's a fair argument, but financially, don't have the tools to go after and tax it. So those are the areas on a statewide, Eli, that are so important. The other one is hitting, and we talk about these constantly.
Just that point, Mayor, I'm sorry, I want to jump in, but I noticed in your budget, there is a significant drop off in pilot payment to the city for this next fiscal year. Is that Memorial entirely that's contributing to it? Yep,
there was very little on the calculation, but about 500,000. So if the state just level funded selfishly, and I know they have challenges, I'm not the General Assembly, I don't envy them at all. I know what we're going through here. They have a bigger hole. But if they just went back to level funding, that would be about a $1.2, $1.3 million increase to the city based on our budgeting.
Okay,
so
thanks.
When I said there to you, it's a $2 million deficit, I'd be looking at a $700,000 deficit.
Gotcha.
So that's the balancing. So those are important things. The other thing that really is important, and it's hard, and I know they're gonna have to make some tough decisions, and they need to think about, and I'm sure they do. I mean, I've talked regularly with my General Assembly members, both Senate and House members. They know the importance, they have to balance. But the other one that comes to mind that the municipalities have talked about is like our tipping fees. Our tipping fees are projected to be increased. And there's a projection to scoop some of that money, some of their fund, but which it only comes down to the municipality. So, and then with COVID, we also are having additional people at home, so they're doing a lot more cleaning. So our threshold, our cap, we're going over. Yard waste, people are doing more. So, you know, as they're thinking about increasing the cost or scooping dollars, there's an impact to our residents locally. So those are the things that we're going to balance right after the budget's passed. But those are really the important ones, or the priorities that are big, significant. Any change they make, and I know the General Assembly, I've had conversations with the Speaker right around the time, right out, maybe the first couple of weeks with COVID. I had a conversation with the Senate President about that. They know, you know, Brian Daniels, who represents the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, we're constantly on that. So they know the concerns, but we also recognize they have a tough job ahead of them. So we need them just to consider that the impacts that they may do, are there things that they could give us on the other end? Are there releases to some of the state mandates in the school? You know, that maybe for the 1 year, because we're all dealing with this and not knowing we're dealing with it.
I'm curious, a lot of the response so far to COVID has been from the governor's office primarily. And I'm just curious, from a municipal leadership standpoint, how is she doing? And has the administration been meeting the needs of the municipality?
Yeah, I think, yes, they have. Overall, like I said, everybody's been learning this on the fly. We all get frustrated, right? So sometimes we want to have more communication when a decision is made, but it's hard. There are calls all the time, you know, daily. We have daily calls with the administration or members of the administration. I'm not on today's because I'm here with you. So I missed today's call.
Well, thank you.
So overall, no, you're more important. So I mean that, right? But seriously, you know, we're having those conversations, and if there are frustrations, right? I'm an executive, she's an executive. We talk about those things about how do we move them. But overall, they're doing the right things. They're protecting them. I think the folks, one of the things that I would say I wish we could have done faster is got the 855 number for the COVID that we had to create. You know, we're pushing with the Department of Health, but the resources were all limited. So there are things that always, as you look back, and I'm sure in a year from now, we look back, we're going to have a book and a manual that we can say, hey, this is what we need to do. But overall, absolutely, I think the conversations have been there. You always want to have more hand-holding and more input, but sometimes the decision needs to be made. So yeah, I think they've overall done a good job.
Great. And finally, Mayor, just if you want to, you know, a lot of people from Pawtucket will probably be watching this. Do you have any message for the people of your city and Rhode Islanders at large who might be interested in what's happening in Pawtucket?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, these are challenging times for all of us, and we're learning this together. As we open up the economy, we're asking everybody, you know, it's challenging. People want to wear masks, don't want to wear masks, and it's protecting one another. So the most comfort that everybody has is to really look at themselves and protect others. If there are questions, concerns, they can call City Hall. We have email set up. We're doing appointments only over the next couple of weeks. As we watch the, I won't say the curve, but if it stops growing, we'll start to bring more and more people back into City Hall and open up hours. But truly, we want to thank everybody. I will say that we do calls and robocalls and emails, and we get input, and people understand it. This is serious, and we're trying to balance their safety and getting everybody, if you will, back to work and back in to the normal. So I appreciate everybody's hard work, and I can't tell you, you know, it gives me a whole new respect with the council and the school committee. I forget sometimes sitting up here, I was there, and you know, I appreciate the constant conversations and the outreach that we have together, and our reps and senators as well. So, and thank you, because the media has been helpful getting those words out. We're doing the best we can through social media. So I just, listen, we're all learning this together, and we've been able to get through this, and hopefully the better days are here and we don't fall back into it and protect ourselves.
Mayor Don Grebien, thank you so much for joining me today. For much more on the city's budget, visit WPRI or read the story below this video.